Imagine receiving 6 months' worth of rain in just 48 hours. That isn't a hypothetical scenario. It is the terrifying reality facing South Africa right now. We are looking at a historic weather event that has turned roads into rivers and left thousands of people stranded. Today, we're talking about the massive humanitarian crisis unfolding in the Limpopo province of South Africa, where a state of disaster has officially been declared. Here is what's going on. As of January 2026, relentless, torrential rains have hammered the northeastern part of South Africa. This isn't just a heavy storm, it's a meteorological crisis. A stubborn low-pressure system stalled over the interior of the country, pulling in massive amounts of tropical moisture. The result? The districts of Mopani and Capricorn have been absolutely inundated. To give you some perspective for my American viewers, meteorologists there recorded over 300 millimeters of rain in just 2 days. That is roughly 12 inches. For this region, that is nearly half of their entire annual rainfall, dropping in a single weekend. Naturally, the ground just couldn't hold it. 3 major rivers, the Limpopo, the Luvubu, and the Letaba, have all burst their banks. And we aren't talking about minor flooding. These are walls of water sweeping through residential neighborhoods and wiping out massive stretches of farmland. Tragically, the human cost is climbing. Local authorities have confirmed that at least 24 people have lost their lives. Many were swept away by fast-moving currents, and others were trapped when buildings collapsed under the weight of the water. And the search isn't over. Rescue crews are still looking for several people reported missing. The situation on the ground is so severe that the South African National Defence Force, basically their military, has been deployed to conduct aerial rescues. They are literally plucking people from rooftops because the roads are impassable. In the Vembe district alone, more than 1,500 families have been displaced. Their homes are gone or unsafe. Right now, those survivors are sleeping in community halls and churches that the government has turned into temporary shelters. But the human toll is just one part of this tragedy. When you look at the infrastructure, the devastation is staggering. The damage is estimated to run into the billions. The N1 highway, think of this as the main artery connecting South Africa to Zimbabwe and the rest of the continent, is failing. Sections of it are closing intermittently because of massive sinkholes and debris piling up on the asphalt. Even worse, more than 40 bridges have either been completely washed away or are now structurally unsafe. This has effectively cut off rural villages, leaving them isolated from hospitals, food, and help. The utility grid is taking a hit too. Eskom, the national power utility, is reporting widespread blackouts because electrical substations are literally underwater. And there is a silent danger lurking now: disease. Water treatment plants have been compromised. Authorities are issuing urgent warnings about waterborne diseases like cholera because clean drinking water is becoming hard to find. Now, we have to talk about the economy. Limpopo is basically the breadbasket of the region for citrus and vegetables. Thousands of hectares of crops have been destroyed. This isn't just a loss for the farmers. It's going to ripple through the whole economy. Experts are already warning that food prices across South Africa could skyrocket in the coming months because of supply shortages. The provincial premier stated that their #1 priority is the preservation of life. Teams are working around the clock to reach those isolated communities. The Red Cross and various NGOs are on the ground right now, handing out food parcels, blankets, and hygiene kits. So, why is this storm so intense? Environmental experts say this is a symptom of shifting climate patterns in southern Africa. The region is transitioning from El Niño to La Niña conditions. While La Niña historically brings rain, the sheer ferocity of this flood, what locals are calling the Great Limpopo Flood, caught almost everyone off guard. Even the famous Kruger National Park hasn't been spared. The Shingwedzi River, which is usually a quiet, seasonal stream, has transformed into a destructive force of nature, carving through the landscape. In the middle of January 2026, something extraordinary unfolded in one of Africa's most famous wilderness regions. What's usually a calm, winding river suddenly turned into a force of destruction. After days of relentless rain, water levels exploded past anything rangers had ever recorded before, flooding roads, swallowing buildings, and trapping people inside the park. The chain reaction started when a powerful tropical weather system stalled over southern Africa. Instead of moving on, it just sat there, dumping rain nonstop. In just 3 days, the river's watershed was hit with more than 16 inches of rainfall. That kind of water has nowhere to go. The river, which normally drifts through wide sandy banks, rose with terrifying speed. Trees were ripped out of the ground. Fences vanished. Entire sections of road were erased. By early Wednesday morning, one of the park's main bridges had disappeared completely under the water, submerged by more than 15 feet. What had been a critical route for visitors was now invisible, impassable, and extremely dangerous. The heart of the emergency quickly became a quiet rest camp known for its elephant herds and peaceful setting. As floodwaters pushed closer to the buildings, park officials knew they were running out of time. Guests woke up to water pooling at their doorsteps. Rangers immediately activated emergency evacuation procedures, moving everyone toward the highest ground near the entrance gates before the access roads were cut off entirely. According to park officials, the water was rising faster than anyone expected. Every minute mattered. Soon, the main road leading out of the area collapsed in multiple places, leaving no way out by land. That's when helicopters were called in. More than 100 tourists and dozens of staff members were airlifted to safety in a dramatic rescue operation. Despite the chaos, officials confirmed that no human lives were lost inside the park. But the impact didn't stop with people. The flooding caused massive disruption to wildlife. Rangers reported hippos and crocodiles being swept miles downstream into neighboring countries. Smaller animals, along with ground-nesting birds, lost entire habitats almost overnight. It was total upheaval. Still, ecologists say events like this, while devastating, are part of nature's long game. Floods reshape the land, replenish nutrients, and reset ecosystems in ways that can eventually lead to renewal. For now, though, the scars are fresh. What was once dry land is underwater. What was once predictable is now uncertain. And this flood will be remembered as one of the most extreme natural events the region has ever faced. Floods like this don't just destroy, they also transform. As violent as the surge was, the rushing water clears years of built-up debris from the riverbed and spreads nutrient-rich silt across the floodplains. Once the water finally pulls back, that soil will fuel an explosion of new plant life. But right now, the damage is overwhelming. In a press briefing, the head of the National Parks Authority described the situation as heartbreaking. He called the affected area one of the crown jewels of the region and said the focus remains firmly on protecting remaining staff and understanding the full impact on wildlife. Officials are urging the public to stay away. The rivers are still extremely dangerous, fast-moving, and unpredictable. This flood will go down as a once-in-a-generation event, one that permanently reshaped the northern part of the park. And while recovery and rebuilding are just beginning, the disaster highlights something much bigger: the sheer power of Africa's climate and the urgent need for infrastructure that can survive increasingly extreme weather. But the crisis doesn't end at the park boundaries. Just south of the reserve, the province known as the Place of the Rising Sun is facing a catastrophe of its own. Entire communities have been cut off. Roads and bridges have collapsed. Farmland has vanished under several feet of water. After weeks of relentless rain, the provincial government has been forced to deploy emergency resources as conditions continue to worsen. Meteorologists say the flooding is being driven by a rare weather pattern, a stalled low-pressure system pulling huge amounts of tropical moisture in from the Indian Ocean. In some districts, more than 17 inches of rain fell in less than 10 days, shattering January rainfall records. The hardest-hit areas include the provincial capital and towns along the border, where multiple major rivers burst far beyond their expected flood limits. What used to be dry land is now an inland sea stretching for miles. And the human toll is devastating. Disaster response teams have confirmed that at least 18 people have lost their lives so far, with many of the deaths concentrated in a single local municipality. Rescue crews are still working to reach isolated families as floodwaters continue to block access. This is no longer just a natural disaster. It's a humanitarian emergency. And as Southern Africa faces one of the most extreme flooding events in its recorded history, the question now isn't just how long recovery will take, but how often events like this will happen again. Many of the victims were caught in sudden, deadly moments. Some were swept away while trying to cross bridges that looked passable, until the current gave way beneath them. Others were trapped inside their homes as mudslides collapsed walls and roofs without warning. In several of the hardest-hit districts, more than 2,000 people have been forced from their homes. Families fled with nothing but the clothes they were wearing. Emergency shelters have been set up inside schools and community halls, but officials say the need is overwhelming. According to provincial leaders, entire households are losing everything they spent a lifetime building in just minutes. Local resources are being pushed to their breaking point. The physical damage across the province is staggering, with early estimates placing the cost in the billions. And beyond the human toll, the economic fallout is just as severe. This region serves as a critical trade corridor between South Africa and the port of Maputo in Mozambique. Right now, that lifeline is essentially shut down. The main international highway has been closed multiple times due to landslides, flooding, and falling rock. Key regional roads connecting major towns have been ripped apart by sinkholes and washed-out pavement. In rural areas, the situation is even worse. Several low-lying bridges, essential for daily life, have been completely destroyed. Thousands of villagers are now cut off from clinics, grocery stores, schools, and workplaces, with no clear timeline for when access will be restored. Basic services are also collapsing. Many municipalities are reporting total water outages after pumping stations along riverbanks were submerged or choked with thick silt. Power crews are struggling as well. Flooded terrain has made it nearly impossible for technicians to reach damaged transmission lines, leaving thousands of homes without electricity. And the crisis is spreading. Across the border, large parts of central and southern Mozambique have been placed under a state of emergency after a full week of relentless, pounding rain. Rivers are rising, roads are disappearing, and communities are bracing for impacts similar to what has already unfolded upstream. What began as extreme weather has now become a regional disaster, one that continues to evolve by the hour. And for the people living through it, the danger is far from over. Mozambique is now facing the full force of this disaster. Sitting at the downstream end of several major river systems, the country is absorbing enormous volumes of runoff flowing in from South Africa, Zimbabwe, and Eswatini. Meteorologists are calling it one of the most severe flooding events of the mid-2020s. By January 15, 2026, a powerful tropical system had settled over the Mozambique Channel. The stalled low-pressure zone dumped historic rainfall across multiple provinces, including Maputo, Gaza, Sofala, and Inhambane. In just 4 days, some monitoring stations within the Limpopo River Basin recorded more than 16 inches of rain, and that was only part of the problem. To prevent catastrophic dam failures upstream, authorities in neighboring countries were forced to release water from multiple reservoirs. That decision sent massive surges racing down the Limpopo, Nkomati, and Umbaluzi rivers, dramatically worsening flooding downstream. Along the Umbaluzi River, floodwaters have overtaken areas near a major dam that supplies water to the capital city, raising fears about long-term water security for Maputo. In nearby districts, hundreds of homes are already underwater. The city of Zai and much of the surrounding floodplain are now on high alert. Officials have ordered forced evacuations in low-lying farming areas after the Limpopo River rose more than 6 feet above its critical danger level. Other rivers are rising fast as well, cutting off road access between coastal port cities and the rest of the country. Entire communities are becoming isolated by the hour. The human cost is climbing rapidly. According to early reports from international humanitarian agencies, at least 32 people have lost their lives since the flooding began. Many drowned in fast-moving water, while others were struck by lightning during intense storms. More than 50,000 people have been affected so far, with around 15,000 now sheltering in temporary camps set up inside schools and government buildings. Aid workers on the ground describe heartbreaking scenes. Families have lost their livestock, their crops, and their homes in a single night. Relief teams are racing to provide clean drinking water and basic sanitation, warning that disease outbreaks are a growing concern. Climate scientists say Mozambique is increasingly vulnerable because of where it sits on the map. As global temperatures rise, tropical systems in the Mozambique Channel are becoming stronger and more frequent. This flood follows a dangerous triple threat pattern: intense local rainfall, massive upstream runoff from inland regions, and rising sea levels that slow rivers from draining into the Indian Ocean. The path to recovery will be long and difficult. While the immediate focus remains on saving lives, the destruction of schools, clinics, roads, and bridges means rebuilding could take years and will likely require significant international support. And with heavy rain still falling across southern Africa, forecasters warn that the peak floodwaters have not yet reached the coast. For many communities, the worst may still be ahead.